Hey everybody, welcome to another live stream with Como. As always, I'm Drew, and it's good to be back here with you. The topic of today's video is I've been on the road a lot lately, hit a couple different comic shows. The mailman's been busy and has brought me some goodies as well. And instead of chopping all that up into a bunch of different videos and uploading them to the channel, thought I'd hop on here, hang out with everybody, say hello again, because it's been a little while, and share with you some of the hauls and mail calls that have found their way to me or here to the house in the last several days and or weeks. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, you don't know that, well, I've been quite a few places lately. I spent a weekend in Chicago the weekend before last for the Kane County Toy Show. It's a great time up there. In addition to that, on the way to the toy show, there was a small comic convention in Hannibal, Missouri, which is in between Columbia and Chicago, if you're not familiar with the geography here in the flyover. And it just so happened that that show started at the approximate time we were going to be driving by to go to Chicago to the toy show. So we stopped in there and took a quick trip around, and I managed to scare up a few things. So if you're here with me live, go ahead and let me know where you're watching from. If you're catching this on the replay, do me a favor, head down to the comments, just type in replay, and again, let me know where you're watching from. Hope everybody's having a great start to their week. It's Tuesday night right now, so I know this is a little different of a time spot than what we normally go with. So thank you for everybody who is here with us. So I'm going to hop over to the chat right now. I see we've got John, Big Daddy Ross up in here. We've got Steve Bradley in with us tonight. So if you are here as well, go ahead and drop a comment in the chat and let me know you're here. With that, I'm going to go ahead. Spike Forrester's up in the house. Hey, Spike. I'm going to go ahead and dive into some of the books I picked up. Like I said, we stopped off at Big River Comic Con in Hannibal, Missouri. And it was my first time being at the show. It's happened, I think, at least once before. And it was a pretty good little show. I haven't set up there, but I did run into some people I knew, people from St. Louis that set up there. Alex the Comic Hoarder was set up there. You might be familiar with his channel. He's from that area. So I got to meet him and chat with him a little bit. And there were a lot of other vendors from that region that I don't know that I got to meet for the first time. It was an interesting show. I'll put it that way. There were quite a few comics in the room, a lot of toys in the room. The kind of stuff I look for was a little sparse, I'd say. There was lots of modern and copper and a little bit of bronze keys, some Silver Age around. There were a couple of vendors that definitely had some really nice stuff, but in the end, due to the fact that we were just passing through on our way to Chicago, I didn't get to spend a lot of time really getting elbow deep into some of those boxes. So in the 45 minutes to an hour I had there, I really only wrangled up a couple books. I got them both from the same vendor, so nothing too wild, but I got, this is Amazing Spider-Man 546, which you may recognize. It's the first issue of the Brand New Day story arc, which also includes the first full appearance of Mr. Negative. I think this is a villain, one of the few more recent Spider-Man villains that maybe has some traction or some legs, might actually be a potential player in the long term of Spider-Man's universe. So I was happy to find that. And then just right behind that one, I found Amazing Spider-Man 550. If I can get it to focus there. And this is the first appearance of Menace. So I picked both of these books up. Like I said, the same dealer had both of these books. They were marked 13. I got a little bit better deal than that. I paid 10 for the both of them, which doesn't break my heart at all because they're retail price. This book, keep an eye out for it because this is about a $10 or a $12 book. And I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but as you'll see, that was not the only copy of that book I found that weekend. So I came home with 3 copies of Amazing Spider-Man 550 over the weekend. and the most I paid for any of them was $4. And again, this is a $10 to $12 value book. So as you're out there diving through some of these more recent Spider-Man runs in your local comic shop, maybe they have discount boxes or just maybe don't keep up with things quite as well as they could, look out for that book because it's a pretty solid one. So that was my haul from Big River, and then a couple of the other 550s I actually picked up at some of the different comic shops I hit up in Chicago. The way we do the Kane County Toy Show is we'll go up on a Friday night. We always stop. We get some Portillo's, we Italian beef, hot dogs. You really can't go wrong with it. Then Saturday we'll get up and we go one of two directions. We either start hitting comic shops first thing and then go to the toy show. And kind of shop early because the show is actually on Sunday, but if you pay extra on Saturday, you can get in for setup day and walk around and see what all the dealers have before the general public gets in. So that's how we did it this time. When we came down in the fall, we actually did the opposite of that, where we went to the toy show first and then went out and started hitting comic shops. The good thing about the area up there are just gobs of comic shops within 20 or 30 minute drive in any and every direction. So we have a great time just going up there, digging through some boxes, seeing what everybody's brought in for the show. So if that is a possibility for you, you might consider checking out the Kane County Toy Show and the surrounding area. It's a pretty good time. And if things continue to go the way I hope they go, you'll probably run into me up there because I have really enjoyed going the last couple times. So some of the other things I picked up while we were on that trip, I'll get into those in just a second. I see we got a few more people with us in the chat here. Nowhere Bound says, hey Como, how's it going? Daily Gron says, what's up Drew? Thanks for joining. We got Ronnie Boy. He says, hey, and he also says good morning. It's very much not morning here, so good morning to you if it's the AM where you are. Thankfully, it's not that here. So I mentioned that while I was at Big River, I ran into somebody, and here is a picture of me and Alex, the comic book hoarder. As I mentioned, he's out of, I believe, Quincy, Illinois, which is just a short drive up from Hannibal, which is where that Big River Comic Con was. So he was actually the first vendor I saw as soon as I walked in the door. So it was nice to put a person with the YouTube personality and get to meet him. And I haven't actually got to follow up with him to see how the show went for him. But I got a feeling it was probably pretty good. There was quite a bit of business going on there as I had to run out the door. So transitioning back to some of the other things I picked up at Chicago comic shops while we were up there. Picked up this great, it's nothing fancy, but it's a nice little hole filler, Sabrina the Teenage Witch #2. That's a PC book. I've got a bit of a soft spot for Sabrina, so I always pick those up whenever I can find them. I've got like the Madhouse issues and a lot of her random other appearances, but I don't have a lot of her actual first title. Next, I found this actually at the toy show itself. This is Sandman #21. And then also I found Sandman #23. 21 is the first appearance of, I want to say it's Delirium. One of the Endless makes their first appearance in here. 23, not really anything too special, but like I said, I found these at the toy show and I paid 50 cents a book for them. So with Sandman in development and all that going on, I'm going to pick up Sandman issues that are in decent shape for 50 cents anywhere I find them. So happy to pick those up. Next up, just a hole filler for my Spider-Man collection. I've got Spectacular Spider-Man 255, John Romita Jr. Green Goblin cover. I'm a Green Goblin guy, so the fact that it was the one issue within about 75 issues that I didn't have, and it was a Green Goblin cover, made it really easy to pick that one up. I think I got that one at Graham Crackers. And then this was kind of the the main pickup for the PC I got while we were out running around at the comic shops in Chicago. Got this nice copy of Thor 134. It's a little beat up, but with my personal collection, I'm not a huge stickler on condition. As long as it presents pretty well, it's in one piece, structurally it's fairly sound, that's fine with me. I would much rather have one of everything than the best of anything. So very happy to pick that book up. It was pretty reasonably priced as well. So if we see the High Evolutionary, like some of us think we might, that's a book that's got some potential to move up a little bit. So pretty excited about that. Just a couple other random things I picked up while in Chicago. Some issues of the Rampaging Hulk magazine. That was issues 5 and 6. Got issue 8 as well. And then finally, Hulk magazine issue number 19. Now, I've already got a lot of these Hulk magazines, and if you're a Moon Knight fan, maybe something that appeals to you. There are Moon Knight backup stories in a lot of the issues in the teens of the Hulk magazine. It's black and white stuff, but it's, like I said, fairly early, not necessarily really mainstream or well-known Moon Knight stories. So if you're tired of getting priced out of Werewolf by Night 32, Marvel Spotlight 28, what have you, if you want to get in on some early Moon Knight action, check out these Hulk magazines. If nothing else, I can promise you they'll be an entertaining read. So that does it for the books I picked up actually at Chicago for myself. Those were all PC books, nothing very crazy there. I did pick up some goodies for Como as well while I was there. And I picked up some, you can't go to a toy show and not buy toys. So I'll buzz through those real quickly. I know we're a comic book channel, but some of these, most of these are comic book adjacent. So I'll get the one that's not out of the way first thing. I picked up Chip the Ripper. He is complete. He's got his backpack. He is the only Food Fighter action figure that I did not have in my collection, so I'm super stoked to be able to cap that one off. The next couple of items I actually worked a bundle on, so it was a great price for all three of them. I picked up a complete Scale Tail, which is one of the later, crazier Ninja Turtle action figures. Picked him up. Happy to have him. This one is really odd, but she's the last one I needed. And this is Irma, who was April's like sidekick or producer or whatever on the Channel 6 news team. Of all the Toon Turtles, that was the only one I didn't have, so I picked her up. And the last thing I picked up in this bundle, which I think even some of us non-toy people could appreciate, is I picked up a carded Softhead Shredder on the card. Great shape. Original release, and it's even got some crazy sticker on the front, which I guess you don't see that often. So I was happy to pick that up. Super cool addition to the collection. And the last toy I picked up, and we'll get back to some comic stuff, I got Muckman, one last Ninja Turtle fig. So, boom. Now, back to comics. And what I picked up at the toy show for Como, I was pretty excited about. There was a dealer there who was paring down his own collection. He was a little bit of an older fellow and was kind of at that point where he needed to start trimming things down and getting rid of some stuff. So it just so happened he had some really good Golden Age and Silver Age stuff. The Golden Age stuff wasn't really anything I was into or stuff that I thought my customers would like, but his Silver Age stuff was pretty solid. And coming out of the St. Louis QuadCon show I did in March, I got hit really hard on early Amazing Spider-Man issues. thankfully, this guy had a bunch of early Spider-Man, and me and him did quite a bit of business. So the first book I picked up for new Como inventory is this low-grade copy of Amazing Spider-Man 17. Can't go wrong. Second appearance of the Green Goblin. You got a Human Torch crossover. Great book. I actually sold one of those at the show. I thought I'd sold two, but I found the other one, so now I'm back to having two of those. Next up, this is a book I think that could have some potential. Amazing Spider-Man 18. This is the, I think, second appearance of Sandman. First appearance of Ned Leeds. Great book. Happy to have that one back on the wall. It's been a little while since I had one of those. Next up, Amazing Spider-Man 22. This book is particularly nice. It's pretty sharp. Nothing overly spectacular really in this issue, but hey, it's Spider-Man 22. You know, they don't fall off the turnip truck every day. Next issue, Amazing Spider-Man 23. A little bit of rougher condition on this one. Third appearance of the Green Goblin. And, well, I'm happy to have it. Next up, Amazing Spider-Man 26. First appearance of the Crime Master, fourth Green Goblin. And, again, a pretty nice copy. Next, number 27. The fifth appearance of the Green Goblin, Death of the Crime Master. Just a great later Ditko issue. This is actually the first time I think I've ever had these 26 and 27 in my inventory, so happy to have those. Following that up is issue 29, the second appearance of the Scorpion. I may have had one other copy of this book before, but this one's a lot nicer, so happy to have that. This book is rather nice. It's Amazing Spider-Man number 30. Nothing too crazy. First appearance of Marvel's The Cat. Again, just a cool Ditko book in pretty nice condition, really, for its age and all. So happy to have it. Following up with Amazing Spider-Man 34. Early Craven appearance. Next, Amazing Spider-Man 35, the second appearance of the Molten Man, and we're winding down on Ditko issues at this point. And the last book I picked up for Como inventory is this really nice copy of Amazing Spider-Man 36, the first appearance of the Meteor. So they're not any of the really crazy early Spider-Man issues, but it's hard to find this stuff, so I was happy to find it and at a good price. And anytime I can boost my inventory of early Silver Age issues, whether they're keys or not, there's still a lot of people out there that are working on building these runs, so I'm happy to be able to bring those back to the market and hopefully help some of the local collectors out and help them get those holes in their runs filled. I'm going to pop over to the chat right now. Steve was excited to see the Thor 134, as was I. Grand, like he said, he's all about completing the runs, and that's what I'm hoping some of those Spider-Man issues will do. Will help people out. Lefty said, nice Hulk mags. I didn't realize they made those into a trade paperback. So yeah, that would be some good stuff. Those Marvel magazines from the 70s they're pretty good. If you're at a show and you come across a bunch of magazine boxes, dig through some of them. You'd probably be surprised at what you find in some of there. Steve liked the ASMs. I also like the ASMs, so I'm glad that you were excited by those, Steve. I've got one last thing to show that I picked up while I was at Chicago, and this one was actually something that kind of came together last minute, but this is the Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. This book was put out by a guy named Dan Erdley. If you're a toy person at all, you may know the channel on YouTube, Pixel Dan. This is Pixel Dan's book, and it actually didn't come out until after Chicago Toy Show. But Dan was at the show and brought some of his comp copies and was carrying them around and selling them. And I actually got one of the comp copies, and he was nice enough to sign it for me. So I had this brand new giant Dark Horse produced book, which is now available in comic shops. I picked this up before it hit the market, so I was super happy to meet Dan. He's the guy who really kind of explained or made me understand YouTube, so I was happy to meet him and kind of be able to help him out and check out the book. So that was cool. Now we're going to transition to mail calls. We're going to get back on the ASM train here. If you guys haven't figured it out, I'm a pretty big Spider-Man fan. And this is a book you may have seen if you watched me on Comic Book Canon a few weeks back. But this is Amazing Spider-Man 149 in a CGC 9.2 with white pages. This is the Death of the Jackal, first appearance and death of the Spider Clone, even though we know he didn't really die. Great book. I grew up during the Clone Saga, and that was what was going on in Spider-Man when I first started reading comics, so I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the Clone Saga, despite how bad it kind of was. It's still, that was my Spider-Man when I first got into it, so I give it a wide berth, or, a lot of grace. So I was happy to finally pick up a really nice copy of that. I've got, I think like a fine raw copy, but I always wanted to get a nice graded copy of it. So I was happy when I found the right deal on that one. So that was really exciting. And now I'm going to tell a bit of a story about this last mail call I've got to show off. A few weeks back, I was hanging out. I was talking to my buddy Tom. If you may remember Tom, he was on a recent episode of Talking Comics with me. He runs Middle School Geek Comics. We were just chatting. I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to reach out to Swaggle and see if he wants to do a show sometime. So I message Mickey, start setting up his appearance on Talking Comics. Awesome. All's well. While all of this is going on, I'm talking to Tom, I'm talking to Mickey on Instagram. I get this email just out of the blue, or maybe it was a Facebook message. I can't remember. It's like, hey, do you buy comics? Yeah, I do. I mean, it's kind of part of what we do here at Como Comics. We're a comic book vendor. So I'm like, yeah, I do. Next message comes in. Well, I have comics I want to sell. Okay, that's great. The follow-up statement was, do you know what Bone comics are? And bells and whistles started going off because I'm a huge Bone fan. I remember growing up reading Wizard Magazine, always seeing Bone 1 in the top 10, and just watching the price go up every month. Realizing at the time, it's probably a book I'm never going to have. So when she said Bone, I'm like, yeah, definitely, I'm interested. And super nice lady, got to talk to her, and she's like, well, I don't know where you're at. And I said, well, I'm in Columbia, that's where I'm at. And she listed off the name of her town. So I get on Google like I always do, and I looked up where this town is. And spoiler alert, there are multiple towns with the same name in a very wide range of different places. So the town she was from is also, there's a town with the same name about 2.5 hours from here. Turns out that's not the place she was from. She was actually from Canada. So that made a whole new level of complication. Turns out, long story short, this lady, who was the nicest person I've talked to, just stranger, nicest person I've met and talked to in quite some time, she's from Canada. She used to work at a printing house. This printing house also happened to be the same printing house where Bone books were published. So here I am on the phone with a lady who literally made issues of Bone. She's like, I remember running them. You know, I'd square them up, make sure they were cut right. I packed them into boxes. And I've got what I essentially consider to be printer file copies of these books that I brought home at the time they were made. This is what I want to sell. So we started talking, we made the deal, and just a few days later, I got a box with 30 different Bone comics in it. I'm going to show you some of the best ones. First up, this is Bone number 10. This is the first printing. Pretty cool. Next up, Bone number 9. Super cool. You guys may be able to figure out where this is going. Bone number 8. A little issue there, a little rough. She was not a comic collector, so they were just kind of a thing, you know. It's like I made these, so I kept them, and these were actually issues she'd given a family member. Bone 7, first print. All these are first prints, by the way. Bone 6. So, you know, she shows me some of these pictures. I'm like, hey, this is cool, you know. And it just keeps going. Bone 5, first print. And I'm scrolling through, I'm looking, I'm like, okay, you know, what printing has what color, all this. Bone 4, first print. Get there, I'm like, okay, there's 3, that's pretty cool. Bone 3, first print. I get this picture that has this in it. Bone 2, first print. I'm like, that's awesome. That's a pretty good book. And then I scroll and I see, well, crap. Bone 1, 6th print. That sucks. Same picture, I think. 5th print. Nope, still ain't gonna do it. And I've got a box with some bones, you know, it's like 8th printing, 9th printing. I see this one. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's number 1, 3rd print. That's still a pretty good book, right? And then I see this. She has a file copy of legit Bone 1. Published in Canada. If you flip open any of those early Bone books, you'll see it says right at the bottom, published in Canada. This seller worked for the publisher, had these file copies, and decided she was ready to sell them. And somehow, from across the border, she got my information and called me while I had all this other stuff going on. And the world just kind of stopped, and she had my complete and teetotal attention. So it was, I think, like a Tuesday night. It's 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm sitting here looking at booking flights to Canada, figuring out how the hell can I get this done. We wound up working out an arrangement, and as you can see, I got to complete my first ever international comic collection pickup. In addition to the books I showed you here, there are additional printings of every issue. Most of them the lower printings, so those will all find their way into the inventory I already have. So once Bone hits, that box will be going to shows with me, and we'll sell some of those. But for now, the 1 through 10, those are going to rest in the PC, and I'm super thrilled to have those. It's a book I didn't think I'd ever have the chance to own, so when that just kind of came up out of the blue, I was particularly excited. So that's the story with that. It was crazy times. It was a whole lot of faith on my part and her part, because it was me sending money without books and her sending books without all the money, and it went perfect and just as well as you could possibly hope for, and that was just awesome. So that is the major modern key that I recently picked up. Super stoked to have it, and I don't think I'll be letting that one go anytime soon, unless she calls me back and finds more, which could happen. So I guess I could say stay tuned for that, because you never know where this story might go from here. I'm going to hop back into the chat right quick. 10-cent story says Bone One. He loves that cover. It's so great. And, you know, it's a Netflix show that's coming up, right? That Bone is going to be on a Netflix show. I've had the compendium or the phone book, the giant, like, single volume Bone for a while. I need to break it out and read it because I hear it's great. Still super excited to have it. Gron says, talk about a holy grail. I agree. Next to like Ninja Turtles 1, first print, and Cerebus 1, I'm pretty hard pressed to think of an indie book that really is that desired. So those are definitely books that are also on my list. That Turtles 1, though, it's tough right now, because I've been trying to track one down, and it's not good. Not good at all. Alan says it's a nice Canadian story, white pages in the tundra of Canada, or whiter pages in tundra of Canada. Tartan Phantom says, good that you boned up on your comic hunting skills. Pun intended. Yeah, and like I said, it was just completely out of the blue. Blew me away. Very exciting stuff. 10-cent story says he almost bought a GSX-1 in the UAE in 2017. All right. I don't know much about the UAE other than the fact that in certain places they've got a lot of money. So I could definitely see certain things like Key Comics or major collectibles like that being available. Very interesting. Ronnie Boy says that's definitely for the PC, and he is correct. 62 Lefty Blues. He has a full run of Bone and the first print of the black and white giant size, plus 8 of the toys. I didn't know they made a toy line for Bone. Very interesting. So that's what I've got tonight. Thank you, everybody, for hopping in and hanging out with me. It's been a little while with all of this running around. Haven't been able to get any new videos up for you since, we did the live stream with Swaggle Hoss. That was a great time, but things are calming back down, and we should be able to get some content out for you guys. Just regular pre-recorded content that you're used to coming back here real soon. I've got something in the works for this weekend, so if this pans out the way I hope it does, my bank account is going to be very sad, but I'm going to have some truly awesome stuff to show you guys the next time we come and do this. And honestly, that one will probably be a pre-recorded video if it goes down the way I hope it does. So we shall see. But for now, I'm going to wrap it up, tell you to have a great rest of your week. Happy hunting when you hit the comic shops tomorrow. Don't forget to collect responsibly, and I will see you in the next video.